The views and opinions expressed on the Veterans in Politics show and podcast are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.
Well, we are back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Today we're going to have Craig Willem. Did that sound right? Willem? President of Windy 25, raising money for the 5 soldiers shot down in Afghanistan in 2005. And then we're going to have Vick Gill, candidate for Nevada State Senate District 9. Jim, what's up?
Not much, Steve. How you doing?
I'm hanging in
there. Kind of surprised you last night, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to see you over there at the Rhythm Kitchen. Speaking of Rhythm Kitchen, we have our endorsement interviews tomorrow, starting at 11:30 with the Clark County Commission District E, and then 12:15 Clark County Commission District F, 1:15 Clark County Commission District G, 2 o'clock Clark County District Attorney, 2:30 Clark County Assessor, 3 o'clock Clark County Clerk, 3:30 Clark County Recorder, 4:15 the Treasurer. Nobody from the Treasurer confirmed, so 4:30 Clark County Public Administrator. Sounds like a full day.
Yeah, it does.
Well, you got to do it.
You look tired, Steve. You okay?
Oh yeah, I didn't get home until like 4 o'clock this morning. I was out there pretend I was 21 again.
Yeah, I've done that a few times myself, so I can sympathize.
I think I was surrounded by 21. But anyways, any rants?
Yeah, well, not necessarily a rant, but we have a guest coming on that's running for state senate, District 9. So get some pretty interesting questions to ask Vic, and it's not anything specifically to do with Vic. It's just like I went on doing research for the show, and I started looking up different politicians, their websites, and what they stand for and what they're going to do, and I just thought it was kind of interesting. Like, they all pretty much say the same thing. Whether it's Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. We need common sense solutions. We need to improve education. We need to improve the small business sector in Nevada. We need to do that through responsible taxing. And it just seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of difference in the campaign promises that either side was making. So one of the questions that I'm going to ask Mr. Gill about is, what's the difference between campaigning and leading? Because the thing I always find interesting, and I'm sure you do as well, these politicians or people that are running for office, they tend to promise a whole lot. And then once they get into office, they don't seem to deliver on a lot of their campaign, things they campaign on, but it's always someone else's fault. Like, well, I really came into office to push for that. Unfortunately, my colleagues didn't go along with me, or it's the other side of the aisle, whether it's Democrat or Republican, wouldn't reach across the aisle. And I think, me personally, I'm getting frustrated with it, and I'm sure most people are as well. So those are just some of the questions that I'm going to ask Mr. Gill and see if he can enlighten us a little bit on how he's going to deliver on the promises that he's making through his website and his campaign.
Oh, okay. I was trying to take all that in.
Yeah, I tend to overtalk. So basically, I'm going to say, how are you going to deliver what you promise?
Okay. You got anything else?
No.
All right, well, let's get right to our guest. We're going to take a commercial break. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones of Veterans of Politics. Don't go away, folks. We're going to have one of the two guests, and I don't see a phone call in for Craig Willem, president of Windy 25. So that's who we're going to go with next. Thank you, folks. Bye.
My name is Steve Sampson, President of Veterans in Politics International. I have a great concern for our military people working in the city of North Las Vegas, and I have a great concern about some public officials who are running this city, because evidently corruption, discrimination, and misappropriation of public tax money appears to be the accepted norm in North Las Vegas. Chief Joseph Chronister believed that those officers serving in the military do not deserve their full pay and benefits because it's their choice to serve. A willful violation of NRS 281.145. Never mind the fact that those men and women protect our country. Chronister's trying to get a big pat on the back from the city manager and city council for saving a few pennies at the expense of our dedicated military personnel. This is not only a slap in the face to every military person who ever served, Chronister is just plain old un-American. If you turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to corruption, discrimination, wasteful spending, you are just as guilty as the perpetrators who commit these injustices. For more information, go to our website at veteransinpolitics.org. Thank you very much. My name is Steve Sampson, President of Veterans in Politics International, and I would like to bring your attention to a recent injustice certain Nevada legislators handed our disabled veterans. Many of our wounded veterans are 100% disabled and unemployable. However, Nevada divorce lawyers are demanding that judges ignore federal law and award alimony to able-bodied spouses. In many cases, this leaves the veteran in dire financial circumstances, some penniless and homeless. Assemblyman Jim Wheeler sponsored a bill that would bring Nevada into compliance with federal law. However, Chairman Jason Frierson, along with Assembly members Leslie E. Cohen, Olivia Diaz, Marilyn Dondera-Loop, and Elaine Spiegel, refused to stand up for the rights of our disabled veterans and would not allow this bill to be voted on. If any special class of citizens in this country, it is our veterans who fought to keep us free, and it's our turn to fight for them. Help us to remove these legislators from office. I'm Steve Sampson, and I endorse this message.
We're back. This is Steve Sampson. Excuse me, Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. We're going to have Craig Willem, president of Windy 25, raising money for the 5 soldiers shot over Afghanistan in 2005. And we also have Lisa Mayo
Doriso. Lisa Mayo Doriso. It's really not that hard. I'm glad to be here, though. Thank you. If you could all see his face, you would be laughing like the rest of us.
You trying to make it funny, Lisa?
Yeah, I did make it funny.
Tell us a little bit about you.
About me?
Uh-huh.
I am a businesswoman, Mayo Associates.
That's good enough. Jim. All right, go ahead.
And I am working with the Windy 25 Memorial 4th Annual 5K Run to help them get more publicity and more people involved in coming out and running and racing with us on April 5th for a great cause.
So what about people like me that don't like to run?
You could come walk.
Walk it?
Absolutely.
Could I bring my moped?
Yes, you could. You could do it on a moped.
I have a thing for mopeds now.
Do you?
Yeah. Don't like them in front of me. I don't like mopeds in front of me while I'm on the road. Yeah.
Well, aren't they supposed to drive on the bike lane? I don't think mopeds were street legal, are they?
They're on the street.
Well, that's...
You know, there was a legislator last week. I was trying to get rid of mopeds, and he goes, well, you can't get rid of them. So how about we regulate them? Let's make it harder for people to get them. I said, let's get helmets on them. Let's title them. Let's get some license plates on them. Let's make them register with the DMV, because I can't hate these mopeds that impede in traffic, and it's a 45. They're doing 30 because that's all they could do, and I'm behind them. What happened if I was doing 30 in my car? Cop, give me a ticket, right?
Yeah, probably.
So what's the difference?
Well, you know what? When it comes to legislative session, let's you and I take that on, and we'll get them regulated.
All right, cool. All right. Well, we have Craig Willem, who's the president of Windy 25 on the line. Craig, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on.
Not a problem, sir. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so in 2005, I was the commander of a Chinook helicopter unit in Afghanistan. The unit was called Big Windy because of the rotor wash that's generated by the Chinook helicopters. And in April of that year, in fact, 9 years next weekend, we had an aircraft. The call sign was Windy 25 that went down in Afghanistan, near Ghazni, Afghanistan. It killed 5 of our soldiers and 13 passengers in the aircraft for a total of 18. One of the worst Chinook helicopter accidents at the time was the worst helicopter accidents in history. And I knew then that, it would be our mission, led by myself and my unit, that we would forever make sure that we did not forget them, that we would memorialize them and make their legacy live on by giving back in some way on their behalf, and really make sure that their families were taken care of.
So, Craig,
so it's been our. Go ahead.
Sorry, what brought down the Chinook?
It was a sandstorm called a shamal that comes at once every 20 years in that region, and the aircraft went down in the sandstorm. It was a flight of 2. One of them returned safely. The other one did not.
They didn't know the sandstorm. They didn't know the sandstorm was coming.
They did not, actually. It was it's a phenomenon that comes quite quickly, and I know that in your area in Vegas and in places like Phoenix, we see that quite often, where a sandstorm will roll in without anybody knowing that it's coming.
So the purpose of this is to raise money for the 5 soldiers shot down. I mean, the 5 soldiers that passed in the Chinook, correct?
Yeah, actually, it's a bit greater than that. When we started the Windy 25 Memorial Fund, the intention of that was to make sure that we were raising money for charities around the country that really supported first-hand, frontline support to families of our military fallen for any type of military service. So we created a fund to make sure that we were selecting charities that were doing just that. The charity that we have selected thus far is the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, TAPS for short. They're a national organization that really is the frontline support for families of our fallen in terms of making sure that they're taken care of, offering assistance to all things like grief counseling. They do good grief camps for the children to be able to connect with other children and other families that have gone through the grieving process of losing their loved one to military service. They also connect those military families that are instantaneously their lives are changed, where they're plucked out of being in a military family to going to a family that's now living alone and living within a new community outside of the military. And so they help connect those families to assistance and counseling and care within their own communities, and it's really a wonderful organization. So our Windy 25 Fund, the last 4 years, our 5K race in Las Vegas is designed to bring awareness and raise as much money as we can for this national organization of TAPS. And we have raised so far $180,000 for TAPS, and we would really encourage folks within the Las Vegas community and for those that are visiting next weekend to consider giving money to the event and also participating in it either as a runner or a spectator, so that we can show our families that we're bringing back to this event. All of the Windy 25 families will be at the event, Our sponsor, American Airlines, has been generous in flying them back for free. And it's a good chance for the community, for our Big Windy soldiers that are coming in for the event, and for folks that are wanting to give back to our military members in some way, to rally around those families and show our support and say, we will never forget you and we will never forget your loved ones.
Craig, Adoring Freedom is the war that took place in Afghanistan, correct?
Yes.
It started in 2001, and we're still in the war, and here we are in 2014. 2010, we lost 499 military servicemen from the United States. And altogether from 2001 until now, we have lost 2,315 members of our military forces just in Afghanistan alone, not including Iraq. Why are these 5 soldiers different than the other 2,311 service members of our military that passed away in Afghanistan?
They're not. They're 5 and 13 faces of that number that we need to make sure folks within our country and within your community and elsewhere do not forget.
Are you doing anything to represent the other 2,311 service members that passed away in Afghanistan?
Absolutely. This is why we do this race. Our race is for all of our fallen military families.
Okay, so this race is not just for the 5 soldiers shot down in Afghanistan in 2005.
No. I will tell you that.
I was just a little confused. That's all.
Oh yeah, no, we do this to represent all fallen families.
Because in 2005 we lost
on behalf of our Windy 2-5 flight.
Okay, because in 2005,
our way. Go ahead.
In 2005, we lost 99 U.S. military folks.
I know.
Okay.
And many of my friends and friends of friends were part of those statistics.
Okay.
And so it's my way. I'm in my soldiers' way. I'm in my unit's way of giving back and showing our appreciation for their ultimate
okay,
sacrifice.
I wanted you to clear that up, and the reason why is that when we promoted this show, we sent it out to a lot of military sites and let them know that you're going to be on talking about it. And I didn't want to get these emails that saying, you know what, Mr. Sampson, there's 2,315 of our military folks died in Afghanistan, represent this country. Why are these 5 different than the other 2,311? So that's why I'm giving you the opportunity to speak about it, or actually 2,310.
But I will tell you, and I have to say this, that I hope this inspires your listeners to understand that we need to be a community behind our military fallen families and our military fallen, so that we do something, however small or however big, to say to these families, we will never forget your ultimate sacrifice. We will never forget your loved one dying for our country. And so as we do this charity race every year, and we bring our families of our 5 and 13 passengers back, our 5 crew members and our 13 passengers back, it is our way to show our commitment and our support for fallen military families of all those numbers on behalf of our Windy 2-5 flight. And as long as we can do that, I think that it is a testament to our country to help them out.
Hey, Craig, this is Jim Jonas. I'm going to, this is kind of a broad question, and just I want to base it on your military experience, and thank you very much for your service. And as someone who has never served in the military, how do you say to someone like me that, I mean, I'm frustrated. It just seems like everything is so reciprocal, right? So you have World War II, breaks out. We got to build up all of our forces. We go to war. We lose thousands, hundreds of thousands of military servicemen and women. And then we get Korea, we get Vietnam, then, we get Desert Storm, and then, unfortunately, after the Cold War, we draw down our forces again, then September 11th happens. Now, all of a sudden, we have to send out all these young, brave servicemen and women again to go into a foreign country to defend us. So my question to you is, what would you like to see on behalf of politicians, administrators, that the civilian administrators that are the ones that are sending you guys into conflict? How do we solve that? We build up forces, we go fight a war, then we bring everything back down, then we have to go fight another war again. What would you like to see to change?
Well, let me answer this in two parts, because I think your first question is important. Joe Galloway, Colonel, he said in a famous interview with 60 Minutes, when asked a similar question, he said, "Hate war, love the American soldier. Hate war, love the American soldier." That is the reason why we're doing this event. And so I don't think that any political person would disagree, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're an independent, or what have you. Nobody would argue that we owe it to the men and women who have died for our country for no reason else except they were told to go to combat. So I think that's the message that I think to a person who's frustrated and has every right to be frustrated. These wars go on too long. These wars go on with too much money being pushed into it or into them. But let us not forget those men and women who go that are committed to the mission, are committed to defending the freedoms that we enjoy back home. And it's not political to them. And so I think that's the message that I think that to tell somebody why should they support this, they need to support it because we're supporting those men and women who have fallen for our freedom, so that we can enjoy talking about these types of hard discussions on the phone today or on this radio show. So I hope that gives you a bit of that message. And then the second part of that question, I would just say that, as politicians lead, and I say that somewhat cynical, because I think in this day and age we get into this bickering that shouldn't happen. When as politicians lead and as they make decisions that affect lives, they need to pay particular attention to those decisions and not make them lightly. They have an obligation and a responsibility that we voted them into office with to uphold. When they send a young man or a young woman to combat, they did so because there was no other way to do it.
Craig, what was your rank in the Army?
In Afghanistan, my rank was a major. I left the military in 2006 as a major.
Okay, and how many combat tours did you serve on?
Say that one more time. Combat.
How many combat tours did you serve on?
Well, quite many. I had supported the mission in Bosnia.
Okay.
I deployed to Albania. While I was deployed to Albania, I did missions into Macedonia and Kosovo. I deployed for a year in Iraq in 2003. I took the command of the unit in Iraq, and I brought the unit back home after a year serving in Iraq. And then 11 months back home, I was training them for the fight in Afghanistan.
And in all those combat tours you served on, Major, you've seen our men and women die, right?
Yes.
In all of them, right?
Yes.
I'm just curious, and I did 2 tours in combat, and my last tour was a door gunner on a Huey.
Okay.
While serving the Marine Corps.
I learned to fly on a Huey.
While serving the Marine Corps in the first Gulf War, but I'm just a little confused. I'm still confused here, Major, because you served in all those combat tours, and men and women died in each and every one of those. I'm just curious as to why these 5 or stand out in your mind. Why is that?
Because they were my soldiers, sir.
Okay.
I mean, look, I was the commander of a Chinook helicopter unit with 181 soldiers. Okay. I made a commitment and a promise to them that I would bring them home.
Okay.
Back to their families.
Now that makes sense to me.
Okay. 5 of them did not make it.
Okay.
So I had to go and visit with 5 families.
What are their names?
The five names of my soldiers are CW2 Clint Prather, CW2 David Ayala, that's Chief Warrant Officer 2, David Ayala, Staff Sergeant Chuck Sanders, Specialist Michael Spivey, and Specialist Pendleton Sykes. And those are names that I want people never to forget.
Okay.
And that includes the thousands of men and women that have died for sure. I don't want to diminish their death. They're included in our remembrance.
And do you involve?
Talk about that.
Do you involve
Do
you involve the families in these 5K runs?
We do. In fact, that's been the best thing. I think the secondary and tertiary things that have come out of that. First off, I would say that first and foremost, my 5 crew members' families come to this event every year, and we rally behind them and show our support and remembrance of their loved ones. But the best thing that's come out of this that we never would have imagined, 4 years ago when we started this thing, because we did not have access to the families of the 13 passengers.
Okay.
They were from other units. They weren't from my own, and the Army didn't give us access to those families.
So these weren't civilian passengers. These were all military passengers.
We had two civilian passengers that were on civilian missions over there. Yes.
Okay.
I
was just wondering how folks get involved in this 5K run.
You can go to www.taps.org/Windy25. That is the race events website, and you can donate. You can sign up for the race. You can come out and support next Saturday, the 5th of April, at 9 o'clock in the morning. The race starts. Festivities will begin about 8:30.
What location? What location is that?
At the casino entrance of the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas has generously hosted this event since we started 4 years ago.
Okay.
We have so many folks from your community that are supporting this event. We have the UNLV cheerleaders coming out. They've come from the beginning. We have Agassiz Preparatory School. Their drum line will be out supporting the event. We have the Nevada Patriot Guard Riders out for our event, and they will provide the route security and the motorbikes for the route, and to help the runners as they're going along the route. We have the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department bringing teams and support out and also providing traffic control. We have the Clark County Fire Department that will be supporting our event as well, including their Honor Guard, which is just an amazing group of folks. So I would encourage folks to come out. All of the military families of our fallen will be there. We have Gold Star families that will be out to run in the race and remember their loved ones that died. And so it really becomes a community effort in rallying behind our fallen military families.
Lisa?
I just want to say, and also to remind people, that there is also a free pasta feed and fundraising remembrance dinner hosted by Carmine's Las Vegas, April 4th at 6 p.m. You can go on if you're participating in the race and be part of that. I just think that I was fortunate enough to be introduced to Craig this year by a friend of mine and immediately wanted to get involved. I've lived here for 28 years. I have a son who is currently, a captain, an Army Ranger, so it's very near and dear to me. But I think, Steve, what you were saying about remembering everybody, I think if every commander of a unit did, and I'll start crying, did what Craig William did and started this fund, imagine how much we could do for all of our fallen soldiers. And I think what he's doing is amazing. And if every commander and every person that got out did a 5K, we'd raise so much more money. So I'm just very proud to be involved.
Well, thank you, Lisa, and we really do appreciate everybody's involvement. And, this is the big thing, is making sure that we get the message out. And I appreciate your guys' time on this radio show. If I can, if that's the least we can do, is make sure that our soldiers and their families are remembered and told that we will never forget. That's the best thing that we can do. And I would just plug that, we are raising money for this TAPS organization. They are really providing frontline assistance to these families
and where
when they receive that knock on the door.
And the funds go to the families?
The funds go directly to families of the fallen, and I encourage folks to read up on TAPS. TAPS is a immediate resource for them when they get that knock on the door that their loved one has died.
Okay.
TAPS comes in non-intrusively for sure, but they are a resource that's available to them 24/7 with a case worker hotline that these families can reach out to and say, hey, I'm really struggling with whatever it is that they're struggling with, and TAPS will link them to the care that they need. And I will tell you, we became involved with the organization early on because TAPS provided that assistance that was needed to my military families of the Windy 2-5 flight. And I was able to participate in a TAPS National Good Grief Camp where children of our fallen are brought to Washington, D.C., and are able to link up with military mentors and grief counselors and really talk about the legacy of their loved ones. And it's really a great organization that truly is providing that necessary care.
Well, Craig, we're running out of time. I'd like to thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
And good luck next week with the fundraising. And God bless those 5 soldiers that you lost back in 2005.
Well, thank you very much, and let's not diminish the 13 other passengers that were on that.
And the 13 other passengers, along with the 2,315 total.
Absolutely. Let us not forget.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm not crying anymore. I got myself together. Thank you, Steve. And I just encourage everybody to come out and join us. And Sanson, you're going to be out there with me, right? Saturday? Yes, he is. He said a yes.
Fantastic.
Everybody come on out and join Steve Sanson.
Well, next week, Saturday, we're doing interviews.
Oh, are you?
Oh, yeah.
You can run out in the morning and say hi and bring some donuts.
Yeah, the race will be done by 9:30, and let me just tell you that for all your listeners, the $35 race fee, you get a free T-shirt, and that $35 goes directly to TAPS. We don't see any of that money.
Okay.
So come on out, get a free T-shirt. It's a wonderful T-shirt, and support our families of our fallen.
Well, thank you so much, Craig. That's Craig Willem, president of the Windy 25, and Lisa Mayo DeRiso. Don't go away, folks. We're going to have Vick Gill, candidate for Nevada State Senate, representing District 9. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas.
My name is Steve Sampson, president of Veterans in Politics International. I have a great concern for our military people working in the city of North Las Vegas, and I have a great concern about some public officials who are running this city, because evidently corruption, discrimination, and misappropriation of public tax money appears to be the accepted norm in North Las Vegas. Chief Joseph Chronister believed that those officers serving in the military do not deserve their full pay and benefits because it's their choice to serve. A willful violation of NRS 281.145. Never mind the fact that those men and women protect our country. Chronister's trying to get a big pat on the back from the city manager and city council for saving a few pennies at the expense of our dedicated military personnel. This is not only a slap in the face to every military person who ever served, Chronister is just plain old un-American. If you turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to corruption, discrimination, wasteful spending, you are just as guilty as the perpetrators who commit these injustices. For more information, go to our website at veteransinpolitics.org. Thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you Raja. Raja is a candidate for Nevada State Assembly, District 34, an area of Las Vegas that he has lived for over 30 years. Raja has over 40 years of business experience. Raja is fiscally conservative, dedicated to economic growth, streamlining state government, job creation, and public safety. Go to voteforraja.com. That's vote, F-O-R, Raja, R-A-J-A.com.
Paid for by the Committee to Elect Raja.
My name is Steve Sampson, president of Veterans in Politics International, and I would like to bring your attention to a recent injustice certain Nevada legislators handed our disabled veterans. Many of our wounded veterans are 100% disabled and unemployable. However, Nevada divorce lawyers are demanding that judges ignore federal law and award alimony to able-bodied spouses. In many cases, this leaves the veteran in dire financial circumstances, some penniless and homeless. Assemblyman Jim Wheeler sponsored a bill that would bring Nevada into compliance with federal law. However, Chairman Jason Frierson, along with Assembly members Leslie E. Cohen, Olivia Diaz, Marilyn Dondero-Loop, and Elaine Spiegel, refused to stand up for the rights of our disabled veterans and would not allow this bill to be voted on. If there is any special class of citizens in this country, it is our veterans who fought to keep us free, and it's our turn to fight for them. Help us to remove these legislators from office. I'm Steve Sampson, and I endorse this message.
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. We have live, and you know, I think we forgot to put the DR in front of his name. Dr. Vick Gill, candidate for Nevada State Senate for District Number 9. Dr. Gill, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, Jim, Steve, thank you for having me. That was a very touching segment that preceded my appearance. But my background is I'm running for State Senate here in Nevada in Senate District 9. It's a district that starts in Southern Highlands, goes to Mountain's Edge, and up on the west side of the 215 up towards Flamingo. Rhodes Ranch is included, as well as Sienna in the Ridges. It's a district that will determine control of the state senate. Currently, the state senate is 11 Democrats and 10 Republicans, and this is a district that needs to become a Republican hold in order to turn the state senate red, and I believe that I'm well positioned to do so. My background, Steve, is in healthcare. I am the son of immigrants, mother from India, father from East Africa, who came to this country for the American dream that says if you work hard, you play by the rules, anyone from anywhere can be anything. I also believe this is a Nevada dream, and I want to fight for those issues. My background, Steve, is in healthcare management. After receiving my medical degree, I received a master's in healthcare administration from the great University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Go Rebels. And for me, I work with healthcare practices on their management issues. I work on behalf of patients, and I also work pro bono on behalf of veterans, because I believe freedom is not free. We need to support those that have given the ultimate sacrifice for this nation.
When you say pro bono on behalf of veterans, exactly what you're talking about?
I do not get paid for any of the work that I do for veterans.
What type of work have you done for vets?
Veterans who have been involved in healthcare issues where they need, certain issues have arisen with their health care or the medical care that was delivered. Certain veterans that are looking, as you know, Steve, the Veterans Administration is heavily, there's a lot of veterans looking for care, maybe not enough resources, helping them get the medical care they need, maybe referring them to a physician, primary care or specialist, and kind of helping them in that regard. I know it's only health care, but that's my area of expertise, and I try to do whatever I can for veterans.
So, Dr. Gill, I went over and I looked at your website, and I looked at your opponent, and I'm not going to name names. So just when I went to your website, one of the things that struck me is I like the website a lot, and it speaks to all of the things that I'm concerned about too: common sense solutions, common sense taxes, better education. But I went to your opponent's website, and essentially, without the tax reference, it was pretty much the same. So I think in the environment that we're in right now, how would you lead once you become elected rather than what you're running on? Because I think there's a huge difference that a lot of people, it disillusions a lot of people. Like, you will say that I want to do these things, but then once you become a state senator, hopefully for you, then you don't get those things accomplished. What would stop you from being able to accomplish what you want to?
Well, Jim, that's a great question. A couple things. I think there's a distinctive difference in this election. Taxes are a big issue. The voters in November, as well as the legislators they elect, will basically be determining one of the largest tax increases we may have in Nevada history. That includes the margin tax. That includes a whole host of other taxes that the legislature in 2015 will vote on. I do not believe we need to increase taxes on hardworking Nevadans, small businesses and families here in Nevada. I think that's a drastic difference between me and my opponent. I support these hardworking families and these small business owners. I don't think they need an increased burden. I do believe you're right in common sense solutions. That extends over to health care. One of the issues that I'm passionate about is health care. My first piece of legislation that I will introduce is a patient's bill of rights that puts patients back in control of their health care, not the government, not the bureaucracy, and not insurance companies, where they can make decisions. And I believe those are critical issues. And this probably follows up to your second part of your question. The third distinctive difference between me and my opponent is that I'm not part of the Carson City crowd.
Could you clarify when you said opponent? You have several. Are you talking about your opponent that's in the primary, or are you talking about your opponent that would be in the general, or are you talking about all of them in one lump sum when you say opponent?
Well, I think when opponents, I think I'm referring to people in the primary and probably this current state senator as well. Taxes is a big issue. Like I said, I don't believe we need to raise taxes. Healthcare, I believe there's a drastic difference between our current state senator, who rubber stamped the president's policy that's not giving patients affordable quality healthcare through the Nevada Health Link. But back to my third point, Jim, that was a really important question you asked. What do you intend to get done? I'm running to represent people in my district. I'm not part of the Carson City crowd. I'm not for backroom budget deals. I want to talk to the people in my district. I've been giving them these messages on the economy and taxes and health care, and I've been getting great feedback. They agree with these common sense solutions. And so for me, I'm not worried about my next election. I think that's the difference between me and a lot of people that run. They're worried about their next election. I'm worried about fulfilling the promises that I'm making at people's doors day in and day out in this election. And I believe that will motivate me to get these things done in the next session.
With the fact that the Senate, the state Senate is split right now, 11-10. If you're elected and the Republicans take control of the Senate, they're still not going to have a large majority. It's going to be a very simple majority. And in order to get things accomplished, you at some point are going to have to reach across the aisle in order to get things done. So for the listeners out there, what are I call them non-negotiables. What things are you willing to not compromise on? And maybe what things would you be willing to say, yeah, we agree on 80% of this, so let's work together?
Well, Jim, once again, great question, because you're right. As a legislature, what I actually ask a lot of people when I meet with them is, what do you support, or what do you agree with what happened in the last legislature? And the answer I received, Jim, resoundingly, is people don't know what happened in the last legislature, because not a lot was done. I do believe that we need to get things done. I come to the table with principles and values that I want to stand up for, but I want to get things done as well. The issues of the economy, the issues of health care, and the issues of education, which I want to run on. I don't believe when somebody wants a job that they look for their employer's political affiliation. Are they Republican, Democrat, or nonpartisan? When somebody gets sick, I don't think they go to a hospital wondering if their doctor is a Republican or a Democrat or independent. And certainly when parents send their children to school, they want their child to have a quality education, and they don't want to know is the principal or the teacher a Democrat or a Republican or independent. I come to the table with conservative, common sense solutions, but I think these are solutions that will work. I'm open to listening to other options, but I believe you're right. We need to get things done, and I will get things done, with a Republican majority. Because I also believe, Jim, that we need to have a balance in the legislature. It looks like the governor is going to win running away the gubernatorial election to the second term. He needs balance to work with in Carson City. Having an all-Democratic state Senate didn't produce a lot of results in the last legislative session.
Well, what would you say? I'm sorry, Steve. What would you say to those that, I understand where you're coming from, but what would you say to those individuals that say that now you're basically going to give him a blank slate? We've all heard the term, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So what would you say to, I'm just playing devil's advocate, what would you say to somebody who brought that to your attention?
Well, I would continue to say that, we would have a Republican governor in this situation. If I am elected, we would have a Republican majority. But it looks like there probably will be a Democratic assembly. So that's the balance of powers. I think the creators of this great nation wanted that balance of power so that, you're right, you can get things done, you can work across the aisle. I don't think it's important to argue just for the principle of arguing. If you stand up for principles, you stand up for principles. But, like I said, back to these issues that I am running on my platform that are on my website, www.vickgill.com, healthcare, the economy, and education. These are issues where I think they affect all Nevadans. They're not partisan issues because, like I said, people want results, and they want their legislature, their elected officials, to deliver those results.
Dr. Gill, a couple years back, for this Senate seat, District 9, the Republican caucus, run by Senator Mike Roberson, put you in this race, and then you backed out, and that seat was ran by what's her name, St. Martin.
Mary.
Yeah,
Mary. Yes.
Why did you back out of that particular race?
Well, I would disagree with you slightly in regards to backing out. I would say this, that running.
It says you withdrew your candidacy. Well, depends on what word you want to use.
I was never a
withdraw
candidate.
or backing out.
Well, as you know, in that in that district, there was an unfortunate circumstance with the current Republican state senator. She had to resign. It was a kind of a really quick situation.
Elizabeth Howsett.
Yes, Steve,
Yeah.
you're right. And I was asked to consider running at that time, but as I now know, and I knew then, it's a lot of work. It's a heavy lift. You have to be at the right place in your life, and at that time I had other commitments personally with family as well as professionally, and I didn't feel as though I could give it my all at that point in time, and I decided not to run. I never filed as a candidate. I'm not a career politician. I've never run before, but this time I will give it my all, and I believe that I will be successful.
So last time the Republican caucus was backing you, right?
I believe that I did have the support of the Republican caucus at that time. Had I decided to run.
I just read that article.
Right.
So last time the Republican caucus was backing you, and this time they're not backing you. Why do you think that is?
I can't speak for the Republican caucus. I do know I look forward to the day being a member of that caucus with a Republican majority and working with the Republican state senators that make up that caucus. I think that's a better question left to the caucus themselves. I know why I'm running. I know the qualifications that I bring. I know the good that I can do for the people in Nevada, and that's why I'm running. And like I said, I'm looking for the endorsement, Steve, ultimately of the people in my district. That is the endorsement that is the most important endorsement to me, and the vote that they'll cast on June 10th. And I believe I will get their endorsement in the district.
Well, now the Republican caucus put somebody in this race, Becky Harris, and apparently, as far as what my understanding is that she didn't live in the district at the time, and she moved just to run for this particular Senate seat. How do you feel about people that we call carpetbaggers that shop for a seat like they're at some type of Walmart to the mall looking for a seat to run in? How do you feel about those type of folks? And do you think that to best represent a district or wherever, do you think that you have to be a product of that district to best represent it?
I believe, Steve, as I mentioned earlier, you need to know your neighbors and the people in your district in order to adequately represent them. I'm not a member of the Carson City crowd. I'm a member of a citizen of that district. I know my neighbors very well. I work with them closely. I volunteer in Southern Highlands Boys and Girls Club. I know children. I know their parents. I know the situations that's specific to my district. I believe you need to know the people you represent, because ultimately that's why we have this form of government. It's a representative form of government where you have to represent their interests. As a state senator, the constituency that I will represent are my neighbors in my district and not other individuals.
Well, since I brought that up, how long have you been living in the district?
I've lived in the district over 2 years since I moved to Nevada. I think it's important for people, like I said, to live in the district, to know the district. I work very closely with many people in the district. It's a diverse district. It's a district that a lot of people moved from other places. I've seen them firsthand, what their issues are, and I will, represent those issues.
And what problems does that district face?
Well, one of the issues is unemployment, the issue of the economy. There's a lot of small business owners in the district.
When you say unemployment, and I hear that from everybody running for whatever, lieutenant governors are going to be saying unemployment is a problem, and that's just a real scapegoat to kind of have some type of point, talking point is what me and Jim used to call them. Be specific. Unemployment. Name a street. Name a business. Name some folks that are losing their homes. Name some folks that are losing their business. Be specific.
Okay, unemployment. I would say this. It's a district in the Southwest, which is a new part of the Valley, with a lot of new homes were built for a growing economy. And as you know, Las Vegas hit a recession of sorts that was experienced throughout the country. What I will I'll tell you this is when you go down, there are strip malls, there are places that were developed.
Where in your district?
You go down Blue Diamond. You look at Blue Diamond. You look at Durango. There was a newly developed part of the district there where maybe 2 years ago it was 50% full. It's doing a little better, but I think it can do even better. And what I mean by unemployment is this: those small businesses, those that are in the strip mall, they employ people, Steve. And so when they are not open or they have to close their doors, those are jobs that affect other individuals. Those are jobs that affect people that live in the Valley, and they live in the district. When they don't have a job, they can't afford their home. That's why there's a housing crisis.
You know the percentage of unemployment in your district? You know what it is?
The percentage of unemployment specifically in the district is relative to that of the state, and it's very similar. I would say it's a slightly higher. There are no specific, the numbers of unemployment in the state is about 8.5%. I would venture to guess it's a little bit higher. But I think that the district needs somebody that can represent those issues in Carson City. I think taxes are a big issue, Steve. They are going to affect small businesses, the way that they hire. There's payroll taxes associated. When I talk about taxes, there's a whole lot of things that go into that. One of it is payroll. If small businesses have to pay more on payroll, they're less likely to hire, and there is a downstream effect. If they do not hire, then that individual cannot support their family. They may not be able to pay their mortgage. They may not be able to pay their car registration. And I think they may not be able to support their children, put them in private schools or schools that are better than the public schools we have.
Okay. What would you do differently than your opponents if you were to become state senator?
Well, I think I went through the list earlier. One of them is taxation. I do not think hardworking Nevadans, small businesses, and families need to pay any more in taxes. We need efficiency from our state government. We need accountability and transparency from our government. When they spend our taxpayer dollars, how do they spend their dollars on what programs? Ones that work, we should fund them. Ones that don't, we should not. I believe that I'll stand up for patients' health care issues. We've seen the drastic effect of Obamacare on the state of Nevada. And I also believe that I'm not a creature of Carson City. I will represent the individual.
So basically you say your opponents are tax and spend liberals then?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, you know what, if these are things that your listeners and the voters in the district want, I'll support those issues.
Could you give us your website and contact information?
Yes, Steve, thank you. If any of your listeners have any questions, they can go to www.vickgill.com. They can sign up for our email list. They can volunteer for our campaign, and they can, take control of their government.
Dr. Vick Gill, thank you so much for being on the show. That's Dr. Vick Gill, candidate for Nevada State Senate District Number 9. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. And, folks, don't forget, tomorrow, Sunday, endorsement interviews at Rhythm Kitchen Restaurant starting at 11:30.
Views and opinions expressed on this program were those of the hosts and guests and did not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.